Addressing an epidemic in this country and Nueces County, a panel of district judges today created a special court to speed up domestic violence cases involving intimate partners. Brian Burns was at the courthouse for us today. Brian?
Well, Joe, one court will now handle all domestic violence cases where intimate partners, like married couples, are involved. At a meeting of district judges, Judge Ina Klein of the 214th District Court suggested the specialty court so that victims of such crimes didn't remain in jeopardy while their cases were being processed. The new court will begin handling domestic violence cases from all courts that involve intimate partners. Klein says the specialty courts have proven themselves in other parts of the country and is needed here.
We have people dying at the hands of the people that love them, and what we are doing as the legal system, as the judicial system, is not working. The victims aren't feeling safe, especially in the hours, days, weeks following trying to leave their partners. And we needed to do something to give them more safety.
Judge Klein says where she grew up in Russia, domestic violence wasn't even considered a crime, so she knows how potentially dangerous these crimes can be. All district judges have approved Klein's proposal, and she will start hearing all current intimate partner domestic violence crimes next month. Joe, Mackenzie?
All right, thank you, Brian.